Hello and welcome to the Rippling Pages. It's me, Liam Bishop, creating the best writers to help you with your writing. And I'm here with another edition of Rippling Points. That's extra bonus content from last month's show. And I was with Marni Appleton discussing her short story collection, I Hope You're Happy, published by the Indigo Press. And that's a little bit more insight and a little bit more inspiration into the craft of writing. In this snippet, you're going to hear Marni talking about, of all people, Taylor Swift, who provides an epigraph to her stories. It leads to a conversation about who and how gets to control the narrative over their lives and their persona. You'll then hear us talking about the idea of positivity and productivity. It's all through the lens of social media and ideas of wellness that seem to permeate in that world. But the reality is not always what it seems. Of course, if you enjoy this episode or any other episode of the Rippling Pages, we've got quite a catalogue now. Please feel free to like, follow, share, subscribe, or even just tell your friends and family about the show.
Another character who in the world who I find super interesting is Taylor Swift, who is one of the epigraphs to my collection as well. But she is somebody who has managed to keep reinventing herself to stay relevant. But I think what's so fascinating about that is she has had to reinvent herself. She can't just stay as she is, bringing out like presenting in the same way. She's had to present in very different ways, and without that and without all the the PR crises and all that sort of thing, would she still be relevant, and would we still be interested in her even if she was bringing out really good music? I don't really know.
I really don't want to be speaking about Taylor Swift because it's something I'm really not qualified to do, but it's just these really bold similes.
Mm.
Snow on the beach. There's a reason she's chosen that. Do you know what I mean? I don't know.
I find Taylor Swift fascinating because I do think that she is, a great lyricist. She's a like incredible songwriter,
Yeah, yeah.
but I think a large part of her fame and success is actually nothing to do with her music. It's to do with the mythos of Taylor Swift, the whole at the VMAs when Kanye West came and took her award away from her, and then she had the whole feud with them and this kind of story, and people wanting to back her and thinking that she represents feminism, which she doesn't, becomes takes on a whole life of itself. And I really do think that that is why she is quite as famous and influential as she is, rather than her songwriting, whether you think it's good or bad. I think it like actually doesn't have that much relevance, which is kind of sad when you think someone who is so talented, and she could just have faded into obscurity if it wasn't for this whole story about her life that's been pumped out into the
Mm.
world.
I mean, yeah, I mean, it's thinking of then that, what would happen I mean, Taylor Swift obviously has some level of power or wealth to change or shape that, but which isn't the same as the characters within this book. So what powers do they have if they have any, or it might not be power per se, but for the
Mm,
the ordinary person, so to speak. And I appreciate Taylor Swift is an ordinary person in some level, but what does the ordinary person have? What tools do they have?
no, I think that obviously Taylor Swift has got vast amounts of wealth and fame and fans and all this sort of stuff, which the ordinary person doesn't have. However, all of the characters in the story have got power to change things in a small way in their lives. Like they're all quite young. They're all able-bodied and that sort of thing. They can go out into the world, and most of them have sexual experiences, so they can go out and they can choose to do those things, and they do make those choices. But some of them perceive those choices as choices, and some of them perceive them as things that just happen to them. And so, in a sense, I suppose, like, when thinking about how we feel about things, that does kind of shape whether you have power or not. But whether it's real or not is another question. But whether you feel in control of what happens in your life is partly to do with how you approach it. So that's a kind of power that we all have. Well, I say we all of the characters in the story have,
Mm.
and and yeah, that is just how they deploy that and approach that in different ways that I'm really interested in.
Yeah, you put the social media post within the text. I mean, did you invent these? Did you find these? Is there an influencer
Uh,
out there that you've quoted? Or
Well, I'm not going to admit to that if there was. No, there are a couple of influencers who, I mean, I don't follow these influencers anymore because actually, interestingly, while I was writing this collection, I had a 3 year Instagram break, and then I've rejoined Instagram to kind of promote the book and that sort of thing. And I found it really interesting, like coming back to it after having had this long period of time where I distanced myself from it intentionally. But before I, quit Instagram 3-ish years ago, I did used to follow some of these positivity, like wellness influencers, and just kind of observed the kinds of things they said, getting up early. Like, why is that inherently good? And also, there's this big focus on, I guess the reason that getting up early becomes seen as something that's so good is because of the focus on productivity. Like, how much you can do in a day justifies your value as a human being in the world. So if you get up early, you're probably, doing more than a person who doesn't get up quite so early. But when you actually strip them back, you're like, it doesn't mean anything whether you get up at 5:30 or 7:30 or 10:30. Like, it doesn't affect your productivity necessarily. And it also, I don't really believe that productivity is a reflection of someone's value in the world anyway, but that's another topic.
Yeah, well, I mean, you've got to get up early. They've got to get up early to make all these videos, obviously. But I mean, don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. I like getting up early, and I like just the way I like to work. But I think I do post things on social media, not about getting up early.
We need your daily routine on we need your daily routine and your breakfast on your Instagram now.
Oh man, but yeah, I mean, but there is a cultural phenomenon, isn't there, around, as you sort of say, in positive vibes around the images we create and the way that we have to do that and the mechanisms that do that. And yeah, the functions of ideas of productivity and who you are in the world. And it's a specific, I think it's a specific cultural idea, isn't it? I think.